I can look at a profile and be like, therapist, not therapist, therapist. Like there's something in a therapist profile that I'm literally looking at it.
Just the profile picture or like?
Yes, yeah, like I want to say I have like a 90% accuracy.
Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Dylan Collier. I'm a physical therapist and welcome to the New Medical Nomads podcast, where I get to document my journey as a medical traveler, as well as interview other experts within the traveling field. Now, the rules for the traveling game are constantly changing, so anything you hear on this show should be for entertainment purposes only. This is not legal, financial, or medical advice. Enjoy the show and safe travels.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the New Medical Nomads podcast. My name is Dylan and today I am with Julia Kuhn, a traveling speech language pathologist. I got to meet Julia at Travelers Conference, but before that she runs a Facebook group online and I was able to kind of meet her through there. And you always have pictures up of like you on the beach and like something floral on, and I was like, oh my gosh, who is this? Who is this woman? And now you're on the show, so that's exciting. Yeah. Where are you at in the world right now?
I'm in Hawaii. I'm in Honolulu on Oahu, so I'm in paradise, as one might say. And I am at a permanent position here. So I came here as a traveler for about 8 months. I then realized it wasn't my time to go by any means, so I'll be here longer.
Got it. And that was a recent decision, right?
Yeah,
that you just
that was recent. Yeah, a couple months ago. Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, kind of how you got into the travel gig, how long you've been in, and then kind of where you see yourself going from now?
Yeah, I mean, my story, I feel like I have like a typical like kind of just like traveler story from like back in the day. Like so in 2010 I was working at a skilled nursing facility, and I was about like a year out of grad school. I was younger and I just like I wanted to travel. Like that was my thing. Like I had my 3 weeks off a year and my holidays, and I would just try to like go as much as I can. And in like that first year of working, like I went to Barcelona, I went to Puerto Rico, like I went all over the country. And then finally, like my coworkers just kind of look at me and they're like, why don't you become a traveling therapist? Like, and then I'm like, well, I don't know, like, can I travel internationally? Like that was my first thing. I wanted to travel internationally. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I don't know, it doesn't seem like I can get a job abroad. But then we had all these travelers coming into our building for one reason or another. Like somebody was pregnant, somebody broke their leg. Like we needed all these travelers, and they all came in and they were all like, you should just go do it. Like just do it and, travel in the US, but then you can travel on your own when your assignment's done. And it just kind of was like, yeah, like why not? Like, and everyone's kind of telling me they're like, your skills as a clinician are kind of atrophying at this skilled nursing facility. Like you should get out and see how other people do things, and you should learn and just go out there and do it. So I was like, yeah, why not? I just kind of more or less hopped into it. So without a super amount of thought, I kind of quit my job, took an assignment, and went from there. So that's how I got started as a traveler, and that was in 2010.
Okay, so about 7 years you've been at it. That's amazing. When did you decide to? Because you run a Facebook group and then you also run a blog. Mm-hmm. I had thought that you started the blog first and then the Facebook group, but that is not correct.
No. So then what happened is I traveled like one assignment back to back to back from like 2010 to 2012. So my ideas of doing all this like abroad traveling really never happened. Like a lot of things happened to me. Financially, I lost a lot of money on assignments, a lot of money in leases, like different things happened. Like traveling wasn't all the glory I thought it would be. So for 2 years I did it. And then actually about 2013, the job market just completely crashed. And for like 9 months, I couldn't, get a job opening within like the 3 or 4 states I was licensed in at the time. So I went like kind of perm, semi-perm for like 9 months or a year. I ended up doing a lot of per diem work, finding some short-term jobs. And then when I went back to travel in 2014, I had this mindset. I was like, I'm going to do it better and like the way I want to. I was like, I made so many mistakes the first like 2 or 3 years I traveled. I'm like, I want to travel like better. And one of the things that I wanted to do was connect with other travelers. And I had over the years, like here and there, I'm like, I want to connect with other travelers. I want to see what they're doing. I want like a traveler roommate. I'm like, these are all these things I wanted to do better. So at the time, Gypsy Nurse was really starting to come like up to kind of fruition on Facebook. So if you look at the Gypsy Nurse group now, I think they have something like 65,000 members in it. Like at the time, they might have had like 2,000. So I was in the Gypsy Nurse group and saying things like, you know, where are my therapists? Nobody was responding. And then I was in these like speech pathologist page, like where are the other travelers? And some people were actually responding to that. They're like, hey, I'm here, like, you know, and we're kind of talking like here or there. And finally, somebody kind of said to me, like, why don't you start a group for the traveling therapists? And I'm like, I was kind of like, I don't know, like, you know, that might be a lot of work. I don't know. But finally, it's kind of like, whatever. If I don't do it, who's going to do it? You know, it was one of those moments. And I had about like maybe 20 or 30 friends that I knew who traveled. So I started the group one day and just added them in. And that was about 3.5 years ago. Wow. So in doing that, like I was just your average Joe traveler. I wasn't a traveling expert. I wasn't a leader in travel. I didn't really particularly know anything more than anybody else. But I ended up getting a lot of the questions. So in that first, like I would say 1.5 years, 2 years, I myself became an expert in travel. I then realized if everyone's going to message me the same questions and ask me the same stuff, I'm like, I'm going to put this content online. So that's when I started the blog. The soft launch was maybe like 1.5 years ago, but really within the past year has been when I've been like, you know, this is content, this is resources. So the blog's only grown in the last year versus been around for about 3.
Got it. The way that you kind of described the Facebook group starting is kind of how this started. Sitting at a conference and I wanted to do this travel PT thing, but most of my material that I get and how I learn is through podcasts. So I spend a lot of time in the car just listening along, and I searched and I couldn't find anything. So I kind of took it upon myself to just get it started. And at first I wasn't going to do it because I was like, well, I'm not an expert. I'm not even in it. Like nobody would listen to me talk. And one of my friends who runs another podcast, he's like, no, man, like just get other people on the show. It's fine. And let them do the talking. And so that's kind of how it started. And it's just kind of snowballed from there.
That's cool. Yeah, it's just takes somebody to do it. You know, you have to start it because people want it, you know, so.
Absolutely. So kind of, you've been running the Facebook group for 3 to 4 years now. How have you seen like the culture change, maybe within the group or within other groups, with like the sharing of information? Has everybody always been so output with sharing what they think you should do and things like that? Or has it changed over the past few years?
It's changed a lot. So I've noticed travelers themselves have become a lot more educated and kind of know a lot more. And in some ways, like I kind of like joke around with some of my friends. I'm like, have I created like a monster? Because like in some ways I think that people, they almost feel like they need to know everything. And like if they can't get their question like answered specifically, it's like, well, I can't do it. Or I sometimes see people get like cornered into having to have so much knowledge. But yeah, that's maybe the potential downside. But the great side is that I think everyone's so much more educated and sharing so much more. And like in the first year I started the group, I think there might have been a max of like 700 people. Maybe 2 questions would get posted a week. So there's this just like, I don't think people really knew what to ask. Like they didn't see it maybe as a group or a community. And then, within the past probably 1.5 years, 2 years, it's just taken off where people are maybe posting too much information. I don't know, but there's a lot. There's probably at least maybe 5 new posts a day. I don't know. I don't really keep track of it, but a lot of conversations.
Gotcha. I know when I had Laura Latimer on the show of Nomadic Hair, she kind of she hit on that a little bit. And there's definitely a happy medium to where you want to know enough to keep you safe, but you also don't want to keep finding out more stuff and like scare you from like making that decision, making that jump.
Yeah.
So definitely like the bare minimum, kind of how the contracts are set up, pay breakdown, IRS stuff, keep your tax home safe. And then after that, just experience it. Just do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Recently, I believe it was your group and maybe in a couple other groups, it seemed like there was some posts made that had ended up coming back to maybe that recruiters or that, not the recruiters, but the travelers recruitment company. And what they posted ended up coming back to the facility that they were working at. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about people having to be anonymous in these groups when they're posting questions? Or is there a certain time and place to remain anonymous, or just be free out and open and keep your name out there?
I mean, I think ultimately what I think and what I tell people is anything you post online, post it as if like your direct like manager can see it. You know, post it with that kind of with that like thought process, because you never know. Like I've seen it in speech pathology groups, nursing groups, that somebody knows you, they can screenshot your information, send it to your manager. You don't know who are in the, I don't know if you know who are in these groups. You know, every time I get requests, I see how many like friends people already have in the group. And some people come in with 15 friends in the group. I don't know if they realize that, so I would say anything you post with like idea in mind that your manager can see it, and would you be comfortable with that? And even through the anonymous post, that's one of the issues I just had where I won't say any names, but if you've been following it, I kind of wrote a negative thing about a company recently. And that company actually realized that I did an anonymous post for somebody. And through my anonymous post, but the information given, they actually tracked that traveler down and contacted that traveler, which like I kind of saw as like a more of like a big disrespect when somebody's like really trying to keep their privacy private. But yeah, like there's definitely, there's definitely, you're not anonymous online, but you also need to get your answers. So post with caution.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah. Kind of on a lighter note, when you're looking at people like joining the group, because it is a private group, do you get any of the random people from like way on the other side of the world with like 3 first names and like goes to the college for like past work history and stuff?
Yeah. I haven't actually. I don't know why, but I think Facebook security kind of goes up and down, and sometimes there'll be waves of they're like fake people. I don't know, like click farm people. I don't know, but I get like waves, like 20 at a time, then I won't see any for months. And right now I'm actually on a spiral where all the people I'm getting are actually like real people. So I'm like, oh, did Facebook like beef up their security? Like what did they do? Like go through these like ups and downs.
Yeah, they get sneaky sometimes. I know with my group online, I always like click on the profile and like check them out a little bit just to make sure it's not some random. But I think I had a person on there, and then you really have to look at like when did they start Facebook? Because if it was like in the past year, and then it's like it's the dude's name, but it's that, and that's like the gender is female, which I mean that can happen, but there's like a checklist. Yeah. If more checks get marked, you're not going to get added. Sorry.
So what I started doing about probably a year or 2 years into the group was, if I looked at your profile and like it was like you had, you were. Oh, so this is the other thing, and maybe you notice it. I can look at a profile and be like, therapist, not therapist, therapist. Like there's something in a therapist profile that I'm literally looking at it.
Just the profile picture, or like?
Yes, yeah. Like I want to say I have like a 90% accuracy. Like it's just in like the way that like I feel like the therapists are all like standing on top of mountains or like doing something like great. It's like I just look at it like, yep, that's a therapist. That's a therapist. So I have a pretty good accuracy there, but I started sending private messages to people a couple of years ago to be like, if I couldn't tell if they didn't have their job, whatever, I'd send messages, and then I get, wait for responses back. And now Facebook actually started a program where you can ask questions to enter the group. I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't utilized it yet though.
Yeah. So I've installed that, which has been super helpful. And in the questions I asked to come in, not only does it say like, okay, are you a therapist? Like, do you understand? Like, this is what the group is for. But I leave a little comment space where it says like, leave any questions or comments you want to address, and kind of have a running list of things that people are looking for in the group.
Got it. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, that's a good way. I have not messaged anybody yet just to make sure that they are. That sounds like a good game we should start though. Therapist or non-therapist?
Yeah, therapist or not therapist.
Take a screenshot and start sending them to you.
Yeah.
All right. Kind of just going down the list of questions that I usually have. What's something that you know now, 7 years later into the game, that you wish you would have known starting out as a traveling speech therapist?
That's a hard one. I knew you were going to ask me that. And it's so hard because I made a lot of mistakes. Like I really have. I've been in a lot of bad buildings. I've stayed way too long at bad buildings. I've lost a lot of money, but I'm big on like, like everything happens for a reason. It's all part of the journey. So like looking back, would I tell myself any different? I don't know, because I really wouldn't have wanted the outcomes to be any different, but I might have told myself not to sign a 3-month lease on like an apartment, that's probably the one thing. Like I signed some 3-month leases, ended up getting some contracts shorted, lost a couple grand like pretty quickly. Okay. So yeah, maybe tell myself that not to sign 3-month leases, which I haven't done since. So
how do you handle that now? So instead of signing the 3-month leases, how do you kind of work those contracts?
I honestly, I do roommate situations, and I just tend to live in people's houses or apartments where they're just really chill and month to month, pay me rent, no big deal. So that's kind of where I progressed to, and that's been a cool thing where my social media network's gotten so big that I basically look for housing by just saying on Facebook, like, hey, I'm moving here, I need housing. And like, seriously, for the past, I want to say 3 years, that has been my source of finding a place. It's like, oh, hey, I live there, my friend lives there. I'll rent you a room. Like you can stay at this person's house. So that's been my go-to, which has been nice.
Yeah, for sure. When you get to a new contract, so you reach out to somebody and you show up and you haven't really met them. What's your like first couple weeks look like? Do you go out and do hikes, or are you more like a crab, a hermit, staying indoors and reading? What's those first kind of initial weeks in a new contract look like?
It depends. I would say first of all, I never have ever arrived someplace like early. Like it always seems like I'll arrive on like a Sunday and work like Monday. So my like go-to that first week is always like unpacking my stuff, like going to Target. It's always like I feel like I need to get like settled in that first week, and I'm usually working during that time too. So once I kind of get everything unpacked, get settled, get my little stuff taken care of, then it's kind of like, okay, what do I want to do? And it could be foodie stuff. It could want to go to restaurants. Could go out hiking. And it's a little different for every place. I've gotten into some like different side hobbies at different places. So kind of see what's there and what I want to do at a place.
Got it. And then kind of along with that, when you're unpacking, is there anything that you've purchased that you feel like you couldn't travel without, whether it be like an item or something personal or an app on the phone, anything like that?
Well, this is weird, but I brought my like foam roller to Hawaii. I know it's something you can buy for like $10, but I like I work on my posture so much and I use it so much on my back that I was like, I'm not bringing a foam roller, even though I'm just flying with 2 bags. But yeah, that's one thing that's kind of come with me. And now I travel with all my photography equipment. I travel, really, I can do with pretty little. I'm a big coffee person, but everywhere I go, I just buy a new pot. And I buy a cheap one and usually destroy it by the time I leave. So that's always on my Target run. Like I walk in, I'm like, does this place have a coffee pot? If it doesn't, I'm like, I'm going to get one. Like,
Is that like the final? So your last day at the place you're doing a contract at, and you take the coffee pot and you just like smash it on the ground and it's done.
No, but I have put a lot of them in the dumpster.
So it's not a Keurig or anything like that. It's like an actual coffee pot.
Yeah, I drink like a pot at a time. I can't do the Keurig.
Oh wow, yeah, that's intense. I say as I have like a half gallon next to me.
Yeah. No, I was too.
Is it the same coffee pot every time? Is there one that you gravitate towards, or?
There's one, it's sold at like Target and Walmart, and I forget the brand, but it's $25. It's always $25, and it has the timer. So where you can auto brew your coffee in the morning. So it is the cheapest one you can buy with an auto brew, and that's the one I always get. I'm like, I don't need something fancy. It doesn't need to grind my coffee. So that's
all right. I'll see if I can't find that, and I'll plug that in the show notes.
Yeah. It might be like Oyster or something. It's a cheap brand, but.
So you mentioned a Target run. That's actually a really cool idea. I haven't thought of that. So what else is on your list? Like, you show up to a new place. I'm thinking like toothbrush, towels, things like that. What else is on your list for that?
Well, I kind of survey what's there. So that's the thing. Like, I'd rather travel with more like the bare minimum than if I'm going into a place where somebody already lives there. So I'm having roommates. The benefit is usually the house is pretty stocked. So I kind of get in, survey like what's here, what do I need? Hangers is usually a big one. People tend to not leave hangers, or if they do, it might not be enough for my stuff. So
minimalist.
Yeah. No, I show up with like 10 hangers in the closet like that. So hangers, and just like I buy a lot of the Rubbermaid 3-drawer sets to put like underwear in. So I've shown up to a lot of places and there haven't been like drawers in the bedroom. Okay. Like maybe it's just like a bed. So to kind of see what's there, like, do I need hangers? Do I need a place to put my stuff? What's in the kitchen? Do I need any cleaning supplies? Do I need any supplies for the bathroom? Like, in some places I've had my own bathroom that I manage where I buy my own toilet paper and clean it. Others has been all shared. So kind of just see like, what do I need? Usually a coffee pot.
Get that caffeine for the day.
Story. So when I was working an assignment in Connecticut, and I was living with one of my, she's now my really good friend, but at the time she was a former DOR at a SNF I used to work at, my friend Laura. So her house in Connecticut was actually like really, really big, and I lived on like the second floor in kind of like an in-law kind of suite.
Uh-huh.
It was too much for me in the morning to walk downstairs and get coffee. So I put a coffee pot in my room, like auto brewed in the morning, and woke me up. And I was like, okay, coffee. Like, this is the epitome of lazy and needing coffee.
That's so funny. Did she call you out for it? Like,
no, I don't think so. I think she knew, because I would also like hog coffee cups, and there would be like 10 in my room at a time, and then I'd bring them downstairs. But
do you collect coffee mugs from each place you visit?
No, I wish I could. I'm really good at breaking glassware. So even with my favorite coffee mug, like I used to travel with a coffee mug, but I've broken everything. I'm just really clumsy in the kitchen. So that would be nice, but not practical for my lifestyle.
I try to think of like a memento I can get at some each place. It's like more personal, not just like a coffee mug like everybody does. But I haven't thought of one yet. One of the more interesting ones I heard when I used to do mixed martial arts, I was training Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and one of my teammates, one of my rollmates, he loved Magic growing up. And so wherever he went, he always bought like a deck of cards, and he kept the Ace of Spades. And so he just had this big collection of like Ace of Spades, and he would write on there like where he got it and maybe a little story or something like that that reminded him of the travel. But I need something like that, and I haven't thought of it.
Yeah, you find one for each place. I started doing like hand-drawn pieces of art, like maybe somewhere between like postcard size to like a portrait size, but it's all like local artists, and I can easily like throw them in a bag or kind of wrap them up. And my goal is, when I'm like truly settled, to frame everything really nicely and have like a travel wall, but I don't know when that'll ever happen. And now those pictures are all like all over the country. Like here, have some at my parents'. Well, actually, I guess the rest are at my parents' house, but they're all over the place.
Okay. I thought you might have like a storage shed, and it's just like a wall.
Oh, you haven't been following me long enough to know that I did have a storage.
Oh, okay.
But I went back to it last year, and I got rid of everything. It was the most freeing thing I ever did in my life. It was in Boston. So I had lived in Boston for a long time. And I ended up going from this was after a breakup. I went from like a big 2-bedroom apartment to moving in with one of my friends in a small room.
Okay.
And I just put all my stuff in storage. And then I was traveling and kind of never got back to or whatever. But last year I was like, I am cleaning out that storage locker. And I went back to Boston and I posted on all the like Boston buy sell and like gypsy Boston groups, like, just come to my locker, take whatever you want. Everything's free. And in like 48 hours, I got rid of everything, and I just threw away what I didn't, or donated what I didn't give away in person. So that was like a freeing moment in the minimalist life. Like, I just got life.
Once you start, you just can't stop.
Yeah. Like, I'm so happy it's gone.
I really don't feel like I have a lot of stuff, but it's still too much to where I feel like I need to get rid of some things. But my biggest concern is what to do with all my books. So I have like a large collection of books, and I just need to find a place to store them. The parents have kind of downsized in the house, so I can't necessarily use them anymore. And I'm afraid of like putting them in a storage shed and they get flooded, or like, I don't know. I'm protective.
Well, there's a company. I definitely have a link to it somewhere in the Facebook group in the files, or I can get it. But you can send them your books, and they essentially like rip them apart at the seams and scan every page into a PDF, and then like send it back to you. So I thought that was cool. I know a bunch of travelers who've done that with their textbooks, or where they're like, I want to travel with my textbook, but I'm not going to scan it into my computer, all 2,000 pages. They send it to this company, it does it, then they have it. I thought that was cool.
Got it. Do you get the physical book back, or is it?
I think you do. Yeah.
Really? Wow.
I can't remember if the seam is taken off or not, but you do get it back. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. If you could find that out.
I'll follow up with the information on that. It's a California-based company.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. Kind of another random question. There's a lot of myths out there about traveling, and I don't know if they're similar to the travel speech therapy world versus the travel physical therapy world, but are there any myths out there that you've found to be not so accurate that you wanted to talk about?
I guess the biggest one is that it's so much money, or you're making a lot of money doing travel. I think that's just dependent on your situation, and if you can kind of land a good paying job and a low place the cost of living. One unfortunate thing I've seen just over my time is the cost of living is going up a lot, and renting rooms is getting a lot more expensive. I think as awesome as Airbnb is, and it's opened a lot of doors for us, it's also made things more expensive because it's easier for people to rent their rooms.
Got it.
So when I started traveling, I think maybe I could have gotten like a 1-bedroom in San Francisco area for like $1,800 a month. Now that would be over $3,000 a month. Wow. So you just see that the cost of living is going up, and our bill rates aren't. And they really can't. Like if you look at what Medicare reimburses, how much it costs to run a facility, we can't be getting paid, much more than we are already. And really, it might just be going down in the future. So I'd say the money's the big one. Also, just I hear a lot of terms kind of thrown around and misused, mostly with taxes. So, I'm not a tax professional. I don't talk about taxes. When people email me about them, I mostly say, go talk to a professional. I am going to I'm in the process of working up a good kind of tax resource section for, the group and the blog based on different experts' opinions and information. So I guess I see the word tax home misused a lot. Tax home, and I'm not a tax expert, but this is straight from the IRS. Your tax home is your primary place of income, and that could, that it's the place where you make your income. So then, if you don't have that, then you look at other criteria to kind of find your tax home. But I see people say, "Oh, your tax home is where you pay your rent." If you pay rent there, it's your tax home. That's your tax home. And I see that misused a lot. Your tax home is primarily your place of income. So if you're somebody who works a school assignment 9 months out of the year, and then every year you go home and you do a 3-month job, that home job's likely your tax home. If you're somebody who lives in Massachusetts, but every year does a seasonal job in Florida for 3 months. That Florida job might be your tax home. So there's different things to consider. And that's why I tell everybody, like, go talk to a professional about your situation. As travelers, I think something I'd like to see more of a movement on is for us not to talk about taxes, because I think it's best just to say taxes can be individual. They are individual. So you should talk to somebody who knows about those things.
Absolutely. That was one of the big takeaways I had from the Travelers Conference.
Yeah.
And, we got to sit down and talk about tax homes, and then the next lecture was like specifically per diems and condensing all that to like 1 hour when the guy could have talked about it for 2 days. It seemed like
one of the like things that I learned the first time I ever heard Joe Smith talk, and it kind of blew my mind, was at the time I was living in Boston. And I had an apartment there. It's not like I was living rent free or anything. So I was paying rent there. And then I was taking probably no more than 3 travel assignments a year. And then working like holidays in Boston. I was making so much money doing holidays, some summer leaves in the Boston area. And when I heard Joe talk, I realized, you know what? Boston's my tax home, regardless, like if I was actually paying rent there or not. And I was like, whoa, I never knew that, because I always heard like tax home is like where you pay rent. But and then I was like, whoa, it's actually like where you make the majority of your income. So yeah, I think and I realized I didn't know what tax home was for a good like 4 years. I think the first time I heard Joe talk, I was a traveler for 4 or 5 years. So yeah, definitely a lot of like just misinformation out there. So
for sure, I definitely see a lot of, especially therapists that kind of come to me through the podcast, or we find them on groups or anything like that. But if you're considering doing travel, or you're just fresh to the travel and you don't have a tax expert yet, I would definitely contact traveltax.com. I was able to call them, and they gave me I just asked questions, and they're like, yeah, here's the answers. And it didn't cost me anything until you file with them. But they're a great source of information, and that'll make sure that I see a lot of students coming out, and they're like, oh, well, I'll just make my parents' home my tax home. It's like, well, you haven't been there in 4 years. You haven't earned any money, or you were working a part-time job, 3 months out as a traveler, you're going to be making more, and that's going to change. Like you said, it's very individualistic, and definitely talk with some of the experts on that.
Yeah. And that's, and it's always like, I did my taxes myself the first couple of years I traveled. So it's only been maybe within the past couple of years that I've, worked with an accountant, and it's, and the questions he asks are so individual. It's like, well, how much time did you spend here? How much money did you make there? Were you paying rent? So it's just to work with somebody one-on-one too. I think that's really important. And somebody, who knows your state too, might be my recommendation to add as well. I've never filed with travel tax, but they do, I think they do know every state, but, somebody who knows your state laws that, oh, you might get, a discount or refund if you did this, or did you know that? So working with somebody local too. Got it.
So you're in Hawaii. You've decided that it wasn't your time to leave yet, and you've kind of hunkered down. What's your favorite travel story?
Oh, travel story. There's so many. Give me
I know you go international too, and that's super cool.
Give me a category.
A category? I'll ask, let's do an international one, because I haven't heard one yet. And I know it sounded like you went to Thailand for a little bit not too long ago. You can tell that story. I think you're saying something about $5 massages, and you got them every day or once a day or something.
Yeah. No, I have a lot of stories, definitely. Yeah. So it's hard to just think of one, but yeah. So in March, I took 2 months off. I didn't work for all of March or all of April. And in that time, I went to Thailand, and I got a massage every day of the week. And it was a 2-hour massage, and they were between $5 and $10 each. And I went with I went with traveling PT Alex Hart. You know him from Vegas. So we were there together, and we just kind of look at each other at 2 o'clock every day, and we're like, massage, yeah, massage. Like I can't go any further without getting a massage today. Like it's about time.
Was there a coffee pot in the room when you woke up?
No, but I think the cool thing about Thailand is like every hotel came with like free breakfast. So I would like wake up and be like, I'm going to the buffet, like coffee time.
That is great. That's great.
Yeah, there was good coffee in Thailand. I was actually just in Bali too, and they have really good coffee. So I feel like I do travel the world a little bit for coffee.
That's definitely Bali and Thailand are just definitely on my list on places to go. So I'm hoping to make that jump maybe within the next year.
Yeah.
Are there any books or personalities or podcasts that you follow that have kind of helped you along your journey?
There's so many like that are just coming out now. So when I got started, I just, like I said, I just kind of hopped in and did it. Healthcare Travel Book at the time was a website that had some good resources. They since have kind of resold and not so much. And I think Gypsy Nurse has always had a lot of great resources. The original kind of blog posts on there are really well done and really easy to read. And Highway Hypodermics is another book that has a lot of good stuff on it, travel tax. So I feel like I'm just getting more information now, and it's kind of exciting that I'm like kind of flooded with now new podcasts and different things. And now, of course, I'm blogging, so I start to listen to all the like blogging podcasts, like Smart Passive Income, different things like that. Okay. So it's
yeah. Are there any specific blogging podcasts that you listen to outside of Smart Passive Income?
No, that's the one I kind of started with. I just did a big blogging retreat actually in Bali. So that was hosted by, her name's Kirsten Rich. She does the Blonde Abroad. So she's a really successful travel blogger who just did a retreat. And then I also did some online webinars through another travel blogger, Nomadic Matt. So he's been a really successful travel blogger and put some webinars together that you have to purchase. They're not free, but on how to set up a blog, how to run a blog. So they've all been helpful for me. So I never thought, like in all my years as a speech therapist, I'd be like web savvy, but I totally am. Like I've learned more about the internet in the past year than I ever thought I would. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. And so we kind of talked about, you having your group, your Facebook group, and using your connections that way to finding places to stay. So I feel like that was an unexpected benefit. Are there any unexpected challenges that come along with kind of being the ringleader of your group?
I think the challenges are that, I want to remain authentic, and I also want to remain neutral. So that's a challenge. So one thing you'll probably never see me do is like recommend a recruiter. Like if people ask like, oh, who's your favorite recruiter or company, I'm not recommending anyone. I'm staying neutral. Somebody messages me privately and says, who do you work with? Who do you like? I'm not going to say, oh, I'm not answering that for you. Of course, I'll give you information, but I try to stay neutral with kind of who I like and who I don't like. But then it's also a battle of kind of remaining authentic. Like one of the things that has kind of come to me over the years is I hear people's worst stories, like the stories they don't want to post online, the things that they just private message me. And from what I see, I kind of have this ticker of like, how companies handle things. There's always like this trend of like, this company does that. And in my head, I'm like, why do people still work for this company? Like, it's like always the same complaint, but to kind of not to be neutral about it and not publicize like the negative too much or the positive. And every now and then, if you're in the group long enough, maybe every 6 months, like I'll kind of make more of a judgy post or a more opinionated post where I'm like, this is happening, like, or, this isn't. So, but I try to stay neutral and honest and transparent. So it's kind of the balance of all of that.
Yeah. Well, I definitely feel you've done a really good job with that group with, carrying yourself professionally and keeping it to where the ranting is on the minimal so that everybody can kind of, gain information. I've seen other groups out there where it's almost just like a rant fest where they like post something and they get in arguments and start, it just starts this big old chain. It's like, why am I tagged in this? Get me out of here.
I think it's the people in the group. So, I've actually had to do very, very little as the moderator as far as like conversations. And I think there's something about just therapists in general where our education is really taught to be like a collaborative education. Like as a physical therapist or as a speech therapist, it's very hard for you to work alone. Like you have to report to a doctor, an ortho, or like I have to, talk to nurses every day. So I think our mindset is like, if we don't work together, we can't survive in general. And then you throw all the like kind of traveling minded people together where it's like, yeah, let's just go like travel and do this. So I feel like I've always felt like it's just the group members who support each other and don't bully each other and have for good conversations. It's just the nature of the group. So I'm happy about that.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, what would you say to maybe a speech therapist out there or somebody who's maybe wanting to start a blog and they don't know if it's right for them and they're kind of just sitting on the fence on doing it or not doing it? What would you tell them?
For the blog, I would tell them just do it and just see where it goes. So you can start a blog pretty much almost for free. If you really want to do some like hosting and stuff, maybe you'll pay like $50 or $100 a year. So just do it and see what happens. See if you have a following. I think way too many people go into blogging thinking like, I'm like going to create this blog and have a lot of followers. And that's not going to happen. Like if you're authentic and you're you and you're writing about something that people want to read, you'll grow a following. But so just do it and see what happens. The worst that's going to happen is you have a web page that might expire if you never pay for it. And it just kind of has your thoughts on it and oh well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then what about the therapist that's kind of sitting around, or maybe a speech therapist just coming out of school who's not sure if traveling is for them?
For that, I always say, why do you want to travel? So I'm not somebody who says everybody should travel. I actually maybe talk more people out of it than I should. But I'm like, why do you want to travel? And if somebody says to me like, I want to adventure, I want to see the country, I want to learn, I just say, okay, just go and do it. Don't think about it too much. You have the tools you need. Just go out and do it. Versus if somebody says like, I want to make money, or if they say like, oh, I feel like I just like, I have to like, just like kind of a not so kind of passionate answer. Mm-hmm. I'll maybe suggest other things. Like I said, I don't think travel therapy is the number one way to make money in our field. I've surely kind of had my ups and downs. So if you only want to make money, I would say look at some other options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then something you mentioned earlier that I learned from the Travelers Conference, that there's kind of a direct relationship with the job market and travelers. Mm-hmm. So right now, low percentage of people unemployed. We got plenty of jobs.
Yeah.
But like what you were saying in 2013, when unemployment was high, it was hard to find contracts. And that was just something I'd never thought about until that talk or that conference or whichever part of the conference it was in. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely the travel job market is a market in that it has its ups and downs, and it's something like I've kind of learned like kind of have to, when it's hot, really hit it. Like, last year, it was so hard to find speech pathologists, like for instance, in California. So like my rates are going up. Like, if a building was posted at a certain bill rate, I would say like, I'll do it for this much more money versus like in 2014, rates were taking like a 10% hit. I was interviewing for a sniff job against, 10 or 20 people.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
So then, I didn't have any room to negotiate. So it's kind of like playing that market. And I see it with actually occupational therapists right now. Their job market just took a little hit. So the rates are kind of going down a little bit. And some people are complaining, but there's not the jobs to warrant that you can really go in and negotiate for more. So you kind of have to play the ups and the downs and make the money when you can.
Okay. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about or say to the listeners?
No, I don't know. And go travel, enjoy your time, figure out why you want to do it, and kind of follow those goals. That was a big thing for me. Like I said in the beginning, when I started out traveling, I actually wanted to do everything. I was like, I want to make money. I want to take time off. I want to go to great places. I want to work at great buildings. I had like this laundry list of things, and it just turned out to be impossible. So now I've kind of stuck to, for every 3 months, there's kind of something, I have a goal out of that contract. Maybe the goal is that I just want to be in Hawaii. Maybe the goal is I want to make X number of dollars so that I can take 2 months off. Maybe the goal is I want to work level 1 trauma. So for every job, I really create like a goal and then remember that while I'm in it. So yeah, maybe I'm not in this beautiful location, but the reason I chose to be there was for this reason. So that's kind of my advice to people, is figure out your why for every job. It's not going to be the same for every job, but then remember that. And this, because that's jobs aren't going to be easy. They're tough. Yeah. They're really tough, and the lifestyle's tough. So you're going to kind of question things and like, why am I doing this? Why don't I just go home? Why am I building? So remember why you're there.
And then, of course, go to Hawaii.
Yeah, then try to go. Hawaii actually needs a lot of travelers.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, okay. That's one of the reasons I think I'm so passionate about being here, is because there's a million travelers on the island. Have a hard time keeping perm staff. So I'm constantly surrounded by travelers now, and it's a lot of fun.
That is really cool. Well, thank you so much, Julia, for joining today. I appreciate it so much. And I know I've kind of been a guest blogger on your blog there for a little bit.
You have to link to your blogs. They're really good. Thank you.
Yeah, just a knuckle dragger from Southern Missouri. So I was surprised when you wanted me on there.
Stop it.
But yeah, I can put those down below. But yeah, thank you so much. And then for the listeners, if you're looking for the next episodes, I always officially launch them on the New Medical Nomads Podcast Facebook page. And then if you have more questions, you can go to the New Medical Nomads Facebook group, and that's a private group where you can kind of reach out to the guests of the show and ask questions. And then what is the official name of your Facebook group?
It's called Travel Therapy Therapists, and travelers only. And then my blog is The Traveling Traveler.
Okay. And I'll be sure to put links below as well. And if you're listening to the show, if you could please show us some love, like, share, whatever you want to do if you like the show. We're now on iTunes and on Stitcher as well. And if you want the early episodes, you can go to YouTube and follow the channel links there, and you can get a little inside scoop before I officially launch them. But thank you so much, Julia. This has been fun. Good to see you again. And have safe travels out in Hawaii.
Thank you. Can't wait till you start traveling.
Yes, it's very soon.